Hi, greetings. Welcome to this broadcast. My name's Vanessa-Mary and I'm a holistic wellbeing coach. I'm coming in from Nottingham today. And I just want to say, what happens when when you are a perfectionist? You do a beautiful conversation, but then your mind's all over the place. You're like, no, I'm not happy. I've got to start again. So this is me coming back on the take two. I've got a wonderful woman with me. She is one of the Masterclass leaders who will be coming over to Nottingham on Saturday, the 17th of May, to be part of this year's Seeds of Unlimited Success, which is happening on Saturday, the 17th of May. So we'll talk about the event as we go through. But before we do, I'm going to bring her onto the stage. Her name is Kay Reeve. She is a speaker, an author, and an emotional awareness expert. Welcome, Kay.
Hi, Vanessa-Mary. Amazing to see you today. And yes, let's do this. Just perfection is not an issue.
Oh,
Being authentic and genuine is more important.
Thank you so much for your patience. It's just I was just aware. I really like to be in the moment properly with people, and I was aware that I wasn't, and I'm like, this is not good. So here we are. You deal with emotions. So when I expressed how I was feeling, you got me. So thank you for that. But Kay, it's so good to have you, not only just on this podcast today, but also to get to know you and to find out more about your journey, how you've ended up becoming a speaker and an author, and also supporting others with their emotions. Did you want to give us a little bit of a background about who you are and what you do, please?
Oh, fantastic intro. Thank you. Yes, so as an emotional awareness expert, this comes back from having supported my own son who was diagnosed autistic spectrum at the age of 8. But he'd also been obviously going through enough challenges by this point to have got to that diagnosis. We'd had various years of him stressed, anxious, sort of signs of very early depression. But it was also that same year at 8 years old that he tried taking his own life. And he was suicidal every single day for the next year, at least, until I finally deregistered him from school and took him into home education, which I know is something you'll want to talk more about in a bit. And the home education did take a lot of that pressure off because I'd understood it was all related to sensory moderation with him. But again, we come back to that. But then in his teens, early teens, he kicked off again with all the hormonal changes, the social changes. And by the time I got him to a psychologist, he was then 15 years old. But because we'd waited so many months for this appointment, by the time he got there, he just said, no, I'm fine, Mum's making it all up. And we got dismissed from any help. And then from the age of 15 to the age of 19, I think it was about 19 or 20 for the next, say, basically 4 or 5 years, I had no further support with him, going through constant meltdowns and temper tantrums and, again, pits of depression over and over. And it got to a point where he was about 19 years old when he was just an absolute shell of himself. And it's like I knew that was my son, but I could barely see him in there. And I'd sat with him for 3 hours one night through a pit of depression. He was talking suicidally yet again. And I actually had the number for the mental health unit on my phone ready to dial, like last straw. This was the last straw, and I didn't know what else to do. And it was in that moment that a light bulb went off in my head. You know, one of those moments where the universe just says, look, this is what you've been looking for, and should have known it all along, really, but it just clicked, that he couldn't understand his emotions because he couldn't see them. And he was a visual learner. So he couldn't understand concepts like time and money or space and distance because to him, they were just invisible concepts. So for a lot of children on the autistic spectrum, they do struggle with things that are conceptual rather than logical and visual. So how was I supposed to teach them about this world of hidden emotions? And this is why so many of them find it difficult to grasp. And that was where I started talking to him in terms of colours that night and relating them to emotions and started to draw diagrams. And it took a little while for me to develop the final diagram, but eventually I came up with this, which is the emotional cycle. So this is happy, sad, angry, and depressed. And it helped him to understand that when you talk about happy being a high emotion or you're on top of the world versus being stuck in a rut and in the pits, depression feeling like a dark place, it gave him this visual map of where he was, where he wanted to be. But understanding that to go from happiness to depression and back up, something takes you down there through angry or through sad, but then you need to work through those problems to get back up again. And a lot of people in depression find it difficult to work through their problems. They don't have the how. They know very often, in a way, what's got them there, what's put them there, and it's a combination of things, but they don't know how to get back through those problems to find happiness again, how to resolve things. And that's where they need a lot of support. And it was realizing that he changed between emotions because something changed, but what was it? And that's where we then moved on to understanding inner change, the orange, is anything that they've got the power to change in their own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, versus all the changes that happen in the outside world, whether that's positive or negative. So going up is positive, down is negative, and it's understanding how their individual emotional cycle works on that diagram. And that if you're not in one of those colours, you will be in one of the others. We all exist in life in one of those 4 colours, and just helping them to understand that empowers them to make their own changes for the better and to grasp the concept of personal development and actually working on themselves. And my son changed so rapidly when I started this with him that he no longer talked about wanting to die, ever. And he literally was within weeks was helping friends as well. And then one of his friends one day says, I've realised that hanging around with Matt makes me a better person. I was like, I need to do something with this. And that was kind of my reinvention began from there, from being an office worker to being an emotional awareness expert. So yeah, that's been quite a journey over about the last 9 years studying, because it took me 2 years to really build the strategy in the book. And then I spent another year trying to break it and see if there was anything or flaws or holes I could find in that strategy. And I ended up building 2 more parts to the strategy beyond the diagram to make a complete framework for understanding that diagram. So everything in that book is a 3-part framework, but it's all about understanding this. So it's
it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot there. So what I wanted to say, I know that I acknowledged it in the first take that we did, so I'm going to acknowledge it now, that as a mother, you know, how you've supported your son has been incredible. You've just mentioned you were working. I know that you've got a daughter. The challenges of life, ordinary life that was coming to you anyway.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot yourself as a woman, as a mother. And, you know, as we said before, you've supported your son so that now in his adult status, he's been able to work through that. And, you know, do you just want to give us a background of who your son is now and how you've empowered him as a young man?
Yeah, I mean, he's 30 years old now. He's been working consistently for probably getting on 10 years now. He's married, got 2 little girls, drives a car, everything, you know, that back then I found it very difficult to vision him achieving, even though, you know, as a basic life, not that I'm calling his life basic, but, you know, we all grow up and sort of think, oh, we'll get married, we'll have kids, get a job, get a car. Those are the kind of things that for teenagers are big aspirations.
Yeah.
And for him, that seemed out of reach back then. And yet, once he'd got the grasp of his emotions, he became actually a really resilient person. I mean, he still has levels of stress and anxiety like everybody else. Raising a family is not easy. And his 2 girls are very, very energetic. And, you know what it's like looking after an energetic child, and they are very energetic. So, yeah, he's a parent, and all parents still get stresses to deal with, but he knows where he can come to talk. And that's the thing I want to empower, is because very much like I was back then, you know, with the home education and then trying to get him into therapy. And then I couldn't for months. And then he just dismissed them. And then I'm left dealing with him for another 5 years. Like, what if more parents had the power to support their teenagers and their children and into young adult life and were able to be their mentor as well as their parent? And that's the strategy that ended up helping my son, was me stepping into that mentoring role at the times when he needed support, because I could be there when he needed it, not months down the line at an appointment. And then if there's anything that I can't resolve, that's when we, you know, with him or with my daughter or even my grandchildren, now I've got 4 grandchildren, and that's when we hit parts where we know there's a limit to what we can help them through, but it empowers us to help them as much as possible. And then you know where those extra little barriers are, where they may need extra support. But then by the time you get there, that's already focused into what they need with all the other stuff dealt with. And then if they need that help, it's targeted rather than let's start at the beginning. And even that, being able to help, you know, somebody through autism, ADHD, any form of neurodiversity, as a parent, to be able to take off a lot of that stress and then just leave them with the understanding that actually this is the bit I need professional help for if they need it, and very often they won't. It's just very empowering in itself and saves an awful lot of time. Just gives them their life back so much sooner. It rebuilds trust and bonds between families, and who wouldn't want that? That's my biggest question. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, well, there's again, you've told us about a lot within that section, so just bringing it back to myself, just for the clarity of, you know, why we bonded in terms of home education, why I'd resonate with your story, with your son's story, is because of our experience with our youngest son, so my youngest son, who hasn't got a formal diagnosis, but I'm now at the point of accepting that, you know, he is on the spectrum. I do believe it's sensory processing. So there were things that I picked up when he was younger, how he was very much distressed, where we went to Tesco's with the bright lights, not wanting to go into a public toilet, the noise of the hand dryer, and certain other aspects. When I'm listening to other people's stories, I mean, yes, we will get a formal assessment, but I don't know if you're aware that the assessment process now can take up to 2 years, they're saying, and a lot of people are going private with that. So that's something that I'll have to look into and talk to Zenta's dad about that. But yeah, one of the things, because I've written down meltdowns, which is what you said right at the beginning when you was explaining with your own son, we do see Zenta having meltdowns. Sometimes it's over things that are quite small. I want to talk about his language skills and go back to your book with the colours and everything, because he's bilingual. His dad's Hungarian, so he's got very advanced language skills, even though sometimes when he's expressed, well, he had a little bit of speech therapy, which was quite difficult because that happened during the lockdown, which was just weird. How do you give a 2-year-old speech therapy on a screen? That would just baffled me. But anyway, what I want to talk about is the emotions and how he describes emotions. So sometimes I feel that he's using words that I think, do you really mean that? Do you really mean that? Is that the word? Is that the emotion that you're really feeling? So we have got a feelings board, and I brought like sad, happy face and everything like that. So to just try and support him to express his feelings. So my question really is about your book. What age group would you be positioning that? Because Zenta is coming up to 6. You've spoken about your son in his teenage years. How do you see your book supporting mums and dads? Is it something that we could use at the moment, or do we have to wait?
Yeah, I mean, although I obviously didn't come up with this until my son was in his teens, and I've written the book as though it's for teenagers and young adults, and then every section of the book has got a parenting teens toolbox, like a parenting toolbox. So there's bits that teach you how to turn those exercises, because there's lots of exercises in here as well, like there's places to write. So it literally is like a workbook as well as a lot of text, quotes and things. So there's lots of places to actually reflect. But there is this parent toolbox tips in how to turn all of that into conversation with your teenagers. However, as parents, if you learn to understand your own emotions first through the book or online courses I've got, then that empowers you to pay that forward to your children as well. Because when you're dealing with things in a way where you're stressed, you're anxious and you're overwhelmed, then it's almost like teaching our children that when this happens, this is how to respond to it. And so by changing our own emotional status and personal growth, it actually empowers them to copy us, even without them understanding it. So that's the first sort of state, as I would say, is it's written for teenagers and parents and adults, but it's no reason why parents working on their own emotions wouldn't automatically support their children's and help them at least with the very core emotions, the very beginning, and to be able to empower those conversations from early on. So, I mean, the youngest person I've ever used any of my strategy with was 5 weeks old. One of my
okay. On your grandchildren. Yeah, I mean, I've actually trained in emotional fitness, so I'm very in tune with my own emotions on myself. I can't speak for Zenta's dad, but I was just wondering in terms of, I think the colour aspect is, very good for younger children because they know their colours, in the way how you've described that. So it'll be interesting to find out. But I just want us now to talk about business, if we may. Obviously, you're coming down to Nottingham. I don't know if it's down or across. Where are you based again?
It is pretty much across. I'm North Norfolk.
I was studying the map at the weekend. So you're coming across to Nottingham on Saturday, the 17th of May. You are the only one who's going to be doing a workshop for our health section. So the other masterclass leaders, they're talking about things that will be part of the enterprise zone, but with you covering emotional awareness. And like I said, I've actually done training in emotional fitness myself. I thought, yeah, we really need to tune into our emotions as business leaders. Is there anything that you wanted to say and obviously it is a family business growth summit, so there will be mums and dads in the room, grandparents, even those in a caring position, so they may have roles and responsibilities for their aunts, their uncles, but they're running their business at the same time, which brings its own challenges. Is there anything that you wanted to share with us in terms of how our emotions impact us as business owners, please?
Oh goodness, so many ways. We do the whole emotional cycle as business owners, from the hope and the excitement when we want to get to that happy place. There's all the motivational part where we go and fight for what we want and we do it positively. Then there's all the thoughts and reflections. Oh, did I do that right? Or how can I learn to do that better? And then there's those days where we just feel like, why am I doing this? But as much as, again, I've written the book for parents and teens, the strategy that's in that book is about the human emotional cycle. Now, every human being has a human emotional cycle. So for the workshop, I will be keeping that a little bit more generalized, and it'll encompass everybody in terms of understanding that diagram. So we'll do an hour. I think it's an hour, isn't it? The workshop?
Yeah, 60 minutes. Yeah.
So we'll do an hour, which is quite condensed because I could spend hours talking just about that. So we'll do an hour on how to understand that diagram in a bit more in depth, to empower the ability for people to listen to their own emotions a little bit more openly. And also, when you start to understand your own emotions, you automatically start to understand other people's more as well. So it builds empathy. And for people who are in business, dealing with colleagues, clients and customers, as well as supporting their own families at home and caring for others, that empathy is a really important skill for reducing stress as well and supporting others and working as a unit. So I'll do my best within that hour, absolutely, to make sure people getting enough to walk away with some real light bulb moments, because every time I do a speech or run a workshop, I see little light bulbs going on everywhere in little people's heads. And yeah, it is guaranteed to make people think, but without going into deep psychology or counselling. This is foundational learning in a way that we could have all done with from childhood. And ultimately, I want to get this into the education system. But for now, I just want to empower people to understand themselves, a little bit deeper in a way that's empowering to connect with others and have a better life.
Definitely. And I would use the word feel as well, so yes, we can think, but as a heart-led coach, I really want people to feel and be honest about the feelings that are coming up as well. I really do appreciate what you said there, that when we're in our business, we're going through the range of emotions depending on what day it is. I mean, I've already felt like, what on earth have I done? I'm doing a live stream, it's all going wrong. So I felt emotions just in speaking with you on this stream. But like you said, for self-reflection, what can I do differently? How could I improve? And it's interesting that you're the fourth conversation that I'm having for this series. So we've already spoken to Lindsay, whose workshop is about how love and relationships love and business is all connected. Then we spoke to Joanne, whose masterclass is on communications. Then yesterday I was with Nicole, who is the legal consultant, and she's saying, actually, you have to separate your family from your business. And you're bringing in in terms of the legal stuff, you can't, but she's saying in terms of protection, for legal protection, particularly with those that are growing a big business, this is really for those who are building a business rather than those that are working on a self-employed basis. You have to have the right legal structures in place for protection. And then you're talking about the emotions. So I think it's very interesting how the conversation's weaving itself together in the lead up to the event. And of course, at the event, the masterclasses is one aspect. We do have keynote speakers who will talk to us at the beginning of the day. We have a leadership panel as well. Networking, festival of collaboration. So there's going to be so much networking that will be happening during the day. You'll have a stall as well, Kay. So as a masterclass leader, you'll also have a stall. There's quite a few people that are authors themselves. So they'll be coming along with their books. I know that you've got quite a few books. You've talked to us about one book today, but how many books have you actually published now?
Because I've got some mindfulness books, journals, and notebooks as well. And in total, I've got 18. So my table will be very colourful.
Wow. But mindfulness, again, that's such a really good, what I would say, if people can bring it into their lifestyle, a lifestyle practice for busy professionals. We can't just be so focused on our business. We do need to make sure we spend that time looking after ourselves. So it's looking after our mind, our body, and our soul. And mindfulness practices are very important. So I love the fact that you've got those tools available so that people on the day, if they want to purchase anything from you, they can actually leave with things where they're going, oh, and actually it's such a beautiful location, Kay. It's set in a stunning location. So even during the lunch break, somebody could easily go outside with your journal. I know that you've got a colouring aspect in some of the journals there. So that, if somebody wanted to just, reflect on what you've learned. Brilliant.
Well,
reflect on what you've learned. Excellent. So Kay, it's been absolutely amazing to speak with you today. Thank you so much for being part of this journey with me. We've met each other through networking, which again, think about the emotions that we bring into even if it's a face-to-face environment. You can be scared, you can be nervous if you're going somewhere for the first time. You may feel a little bit self-conscious, but then you'll meet other characters in a networking situation who, they may appear to look quite confident, but you don't really know how they're feeling on the inside. So we bring so much emotions through with us in all aspects of our business, particularly networking, which is something that I've been doing a lot. We've met online, so we haven't actually met together face to face yet. So that will be at the event. And yeah, there's so much happening on the day, not just in the room, but also there's going to be a virtual aspect as well. So for yourself, you're going to be in the room with us. I'm still working out. You were with me a couple of weeks ago when I was on the session where I was having all of that information coming through about, great ideas of what I could do to make the virtual aspects of the event, a meaningful experience, which is definitely what I want to do. So for anybody who's listening, we really want to have you in the room with us on Saturday, the 17th of May in Nottingham. The food is fantastic at the venue. You're going to be surrounded by really what I would say, not just their knowledge and their wisdom and their experience, but the energy of the participants who are coming along as attendees, but also those who will be sharing sessions and keynote speeches. I can't describe how people were telling me about the energy of last year. They said right from when they came in and the exhibition area, and then we went into the main room and we had the music, we had the lights, we brought the energy. It was just so fantastic. So in that respect, that's what the face-to-face crowd are going to get. But if you're online, we're going to make it a meaningful experience as well. So Kay, is there anything that you wanted to leave us with in terms of how, as for mums and dads that are maybe going through the same situation as yourself and what I'm experiencing, or for a business leader who actually, they're not dealing with any neurodiversity, but they just want to be a bit more in tune with their emotions or emotional well-being for themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Vanessa-Mary. And I would like to ask this. How can you help somebody else understand something you haven't learned first? And every human being has emotions. And when we're trying to support other people, just having that little bit of extra understanding about ourselves is really empowering. And it makes a world of change to everybody. So that's why I do what I do. So.
I love it. And you've just reminded me, Kay, that I actually did a 5-part series called Giving Gratitude and Love, I believe I entitled it. But it was actually about talking about all of the emotions that we go through. I mean, there is a lot. I unpacked that over 5 days. And in fact, I might have a little listen to that series myself again, because, again, like you said, how can we share something that we don't know ourselves, And what I've realized is so many people, I don't want to be judging anybody, but if we learn to release emotions that are not serving us, some of our emotions are so trapped, we can blockages, and we can cause blockages around our heart as well, which then has an impact on how we are showing up and how we're communicating with others. And these are because we haven't really worked on releasing emotions that are at the lower end of the emotional scale, if you like, that are not serving us. So in business, again, if you want to be more kind of showing up with a high vibration, it's because you're doing that inner work and letting things go. So I just wanted to leave on that note, really, because it's all about the high vibe. Big Kay, thank you so much. You are a trailblazer in terms of, when we talk about home education, when I've mentioned it and you were like, oh yeah, how it would have been for you back then, explaining to people that you were a home educating mom. It's more accepted nowadays, but I know, what would it have been 20 years ago or so for yourself?
20 years, it actually would have been 21 years ago when I took him out of school. Yes.
Yeah, so 21 years ago, I'm sure that you would have had you would have had a
episode.
Yes, a separate episode, because you would have had some resistance and pushback on that. So yeah, but we'll leave it there. But thank you so much for your time today, Kate. It's been wonderful to speak with you. And I look forward to meeting you in Nottingham on Saturday, the 17th of May. So I'm just going to close out the session and I'll be back with you. All right, then. So you heard it here first. We've got an emotional awareness expert with us in Nottingham, supporting mums and dads, supporting business owners to really tune into your emotions. So it's going to help you. Okay, so it's going to help you to be a better family leader within your home and also a leader within your business. So if you want to find out more about how you can work through your emotions and improve your communication and all the other aspects that help us to become better leaders in business and within our family, please make sure you tune in with what we're doing here in Nottingham on Saturday, the 17th of May. I'm going to put the link for the event in the description here. I have actually extended the early bird tickets. It's my Earthday celebration on Saturday. I'm not going to tell you how old I'm going to be, but anyway, and it's a new moon. So I thought, gosh, this thing's happening out there in the universe. Let me help them to come along. It's a fantastic discount, so check it out. Do not wait, because I will not be extending it again. Okay, so get your early bird ticket in, get yourself sorted. I've got loads of people. Here's Zenta. Yay! I've got loads of people who are waiting to meet you, but we're going to sign off now. You take care and thank you for tuning in. Bye.